right, thank you for everybody for coming. We'll start the evening with our Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody could stand, say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The treasurer will call the roll.
Mr. Cashin? Here. Mrs. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Trainer?
Here.
Mr. Traver?
Here.
And Mr. Reitnauer?
Here.
Okay, first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda for this evening's meeting. Any changes that you need to note, Mr. Ferguson?
Yes. On page 10, the bottom there, you'll see those additions. And then on page 11, number 1 at the top there. And then on page 14, everything in green there. And on the fall sport coaches handout, the yellow sheet, there's an addition there at the bottom.
What color is that sheet again?
It is yellow. And that is it.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Cashin?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes.
Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
And Mr. Reitnauer?
Yes.
Thank you. Next item is the approval of the minutes from the April 20th, 2021 regular meeting, and also the May 10th, 2021 special meeting, the board workshop. Draft copies have been sent out for both meetings, and there have not been changes since.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Cashin?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes.
Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
And Mr. Reitnauer?
Yes.
You're on.
All right, looks like we got a good group here, led by Mrs. Richards. If you guys would like to be recognized, Mrs. Richards on the equestrian team.
Okay, first of all, I would like to thank you for allowing us to come in tonight and be recognized. As a coach, my sole job is to push the paperwork because I did not grow up riding horses, and I don't know a whole lot about them. So these guys are the kids who know what's going on, and I depend on them to know what's going on, along with Lexi Eck, who's my assistant coach. So I think it's important to share a little bit about each one, as I know them anyway. So my own children were gifted riding lessons from their uncle when they were 4 and 5 years old, and little did I know what they were getting me into. After braving the initial odor of the horse barn, Sammy and Sophie soon came to accept that as a comforting smell of friendship and a non-judgmental welcome, which would be followed by knickers of recognition. You guys want to come up? They can see who I'm talking to. Challenges were sometimes met with tears, but faced nevertheless. As each new challenge was overcome, confidence grew, and the confidence spilled over into other areas of their lives. This past year, after her horse sustained a leg injury, Sammy has had to learn to sit back and be a cheerleader while she watches the rest of her team on race day. And Sophie has had to deal with the loss of her best friend when he had to be put down for colic, just after registering for the state meet. As one of the few members who like to show on the pleasure side of the arena, Sophie felt pressure to quickly find another horse that she could use at the state meet and help the team be successful. Luckily, her instructor came through with an available horse that Sophie was able to bond with in the short few weeks before the meet. Emma Steinmiller has also been around horses for the better part of her life, beginning as an 8-year-old. At age 11, she had a serious riding accident resulting in surgeries, an eye injury, and missed school. In the local horse community, many people were praying for her. To those of us watching and waiting, it seemed like forever before we saw Emma in the barn again. But at 14, the switch flipped on, and Emma returned to the riding arena like nothing ever happened, competing well around the area. Today, she rides as fearless as anyone, pushing her willing partner as fast as can be and stopping in a heartbeat. She takes my breath away. Lainey's not here tonight, but Lainey Rydick is another member. She began riding since at age 7 when riding lessons were given to her, and she quickly fell in love, according to her mother. A search for a horse led to a giant, well-mannered beast. Lainey would have to grow into him. She was only tiny, and this beast is huge. She developed as a rider, and as with others, she experienced her struggles and her setbacks. When Lainey fell from Silverado's back, she broke her arm. One would think that that would have ended the relationship. That broken arm only served to strengthen her relationship and her bond with her horse. It made her more determined to get back on and ride again. Together, they've become a great team. He is her heart horse, and that showed at state competition when Lainey was tired and wanted to quit, even though Silverado showed that he was tired too. Every time she went to his stall to pull him out to go run another race, they both put up their heads and did the best job they could, which ended up getting us more points to get us into closer to first position. Emma Eck is a story that continues to unfold. I remember seeing her around the barn when her sister was there, but I didn't recall ever seeing her ride. There wasn't really any interest until a 27-year-old horse named Porky was offered to her for lease. Emma took the Porky immediately. Porky bloomed again under Emma's care until she passed away at age 31. Emma had to start looking all over again for a showing partner. The struggle to find the right one can often be a weary road, but Emma greets it with a good attitude and a smile. Over the past 2 years, Emma has become more confident and puts her mind to work through the difficulties, but she doesn't give up. Her horse may not do everything exactly the way she wants it to, but she can be proud of the fact that she has taught it, and she understands the patience and the diligence that must go into turning a green horse into an accomplished show horse. Holly Murray is also not here. She's a unique addition to our team. She resides in Elmore, and since Woodmore does not have an equestrian team, it was permissible for her to join our team. We met Holly when Sammy and Holly were taking jumping lessons together over in Gibsonburg with the same instructor. So it was only natural to invite her to participate with us. Chasing dreams over fences around northern Ohio and southern Michigan has taught Holly that failures bring lessons learned, which, when you pay attention, leads to success. Horses need riders who are leaders and make them feel confident and comfortable in their job. As Holly grew in confidence, so did her horse. Together, they make a beautiful picture of poise and power as they glide over obstacles. And then there's Wyatt. Steinmiller through and through. He's a joy to be around, smart, funny, fearless on the back of a 1,500-pound thundering bag of muscle. As a freshman, and the only boy on the team, Wyatt is a valuable member. But I imagine, like my girls in middle school, he probably couldn't wait to get to the high school to be on the equestrian team. Yeah? Even under pressure and exhaustion at the state meet, Wyatt wanted to give up. But when the chips were down and the team needed him to keep going for a chance at the win, again, just like so many others, he put his head down and he pulled his horse out of the stall and they went back at it again. This year, he will compete against his sister in all the events in the area because they've come into the same age group. That'll be fun to watch. Thank you. I would also like to recognize Lexi Eck. She's a graduate of the class of 2018 and a former member of the Genoa equestrian team. So it was only natural for Lexi to come back immediately after she graduated and help me as a coach. I truly appreciate her help as she understands horse showing as I never will. As I mentioned, I didn't grow up around them. She helps me stay aware of what is going on with the events and the coaches meetings while we're both trying to help the kids be aware of their events and what's going on in the show ring and their needs so that they're ready. I'd also like the parents in the audience to stand up. Because without these people, we wouldn't get anywhere. They drive their kids around. They bring them ready to the show. They're early mornings that sometimes I remember a 2 o'clock morning getting up and hauling a kid and a horse to a show. And we were home before noon, though, that was nice. But they're also late nights. And these people don't have to care just for their kid, they also have to care for their horse. So they have 2 athletes they take care of. And during the state meet, our parents were especially helpful when the chips were down, because by prodding and pushing their kids, they got us to fight through the exhaustion and finish the race until our win was secure. And without them encouraging their kids on, we might not have come home with even a second place ribbon. So it really did take our little village that day to pull our team up to the top. So I thank you for your time, and I apologize if I've taken up too much of your time, but I think these guys are.
Any questions from the board for the group? Kim, thank you.
We're just losing one senior this year or 2?
What did you ask?
Our seniors, I know we have.
Seniors, raise your hand.
Oh.
And we're also missing Lainey, who is a senior also.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
we're going to graduate a lot of them.
To do some recruiting.
Right?
I understand there are also maybe, 2 other freshmen who were not ready to participate this year, but they're looking forward to participating
Okay.
next year.
Good. So
Awesome.
Very good.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, parents, for your support of the team and the group. Obviously, the groups and teams need all your support and love and running errands and doing all the little things that make it work. So thanks to you. Congratulations to you on such a great group and all the success that they've had. All right, we'll move on to
I have one
our,
thing.
oh, you got
I
something?
have one thing.
Yeah,
I
I'm
just
sorry.
wanted to, she's not here tonight, but I wanted to publicly acknowledge Kim LaGrange. She's retiring from our athletic boosters after 5 years of serving, so I want to make sure that we acknowledge her service to the athletic.
Thank you, Kim. Yeah, boosters are so important, and they've done, those ladies have really worked hard over the last 5 years for sure. Thank you, Chrissy.
You're welcome.
Input from the administration and staff. We'll hear from Holly. Big shout out to Holly for her presentation at the state in Columbus this week.
Thanks.
Great job, by the way. Saw the video. Very cool.
Oh,
You're
good.
calm, cool, and collected.
Cool as a cucumber, that's how I roll. No, it was a good opportunity. I knew after this levy and the comments that were made by a lot of the public that, you know, there was thought that we're not doing anything, that we're, you know, not being financially responsible, we just need to tighten the belt, and it's so much more than that with our state funding issues. And so I called up the president of the Ohio Federation of Teachers, and I said, hey, next time there's an opportunity to testify, I would like to do it. And within 24 hours, a gentleman called me and said, how's May 17th? And I was like, that's 4 days from now. And he said, yep. I go, okay, I'm coming. So it worked out. I was really grateful to have that opportunity and go and speak about our community and our students and our needs. I don't know if it will have an effect this time around, but at least they know who Genoa is, and they're aware of rural districts like us and the problems that we face. So I was happy to speak about us. So Thank you. I do have to leave. I have two kids that are playing in different locations, not in Genoa right now, and I want to go watch one of them. So I was able to see that we have a pretty fair amount of ESSER funds coming our way, and I would like to, and our union would like to be a part of maybe some of those conversations. I'll just give a 30-second plug right now, and then maybe we can talk about it. One of the things that I noticed that we can spend these funds on is air quality. So the first thought was, how can we use this to get air conditioning in the high schools? So that would be one request. Another request is talking about how we, to maintain staff levels, and there was talk of technology. We've been trying for years to get a STEM position in the high school and middle school, and we have a teacher who has been building a curriculum for the last couple of years, and I would love to be able to utilize her for our students who need this STEM education, our gifted kids, our advanced kids, you know, would really need this opportunity. So obviously there's a laundry list of things. We would love to probably use some of these funds for our expenses, our current expenses. I understand that. But if there's anything remaining, those would be the two things on our list. So other than that, that's all I have from the teacher side of things. Couple more weeks to go, and a well-deserved vacation for the students and the staff for sure. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Holly.
Real quick, I know you got to run, but I have to ask you this question. I didn't see, and when I saw it, real quick, some of the feedback you got. I know there was some of the legislatures that were, lators that were
Yeah.
asking questions or whatever. Anything stand out to you in terms of what they may have tried
No,
to trip you up with or anything like that?
the comment that I received, I think was more towards their agenda and not anything related to us. He picked out some line items of the budget to talk about how it would be actually less than what we were receiving. From the things that I saw, we would be gaining 3% at 150,000, and I don't know if that's widespread throughout the whole implementation of it. But I told him, I said, I'm not sure what you're looking at. If I had the data, I'd be happy to see it. But you know, at any rate, this fair funding plan is a good starting point that we can build off of. It's better than what we have in terms of having a finite number, they kept saying it's a working document. It's something that they'll continue to change. So that was my take. I even said it in my speech, while this doesn't fix our problems in Genoa, it is hopefully a starting point in a conversation to getting rural districts like ours what they need. Districts that don't have a business to support them, which is where we're at. So I don't know. He tried to trip me up, but I think it was for his own purposes, not anything to do with us. He was doing it all day to anybody that he could. And you'd see his little aide come in and give him some paperwork, and he'd scratch some things, and then he'd ask the question to trip people up. So whatever.
It's what politicians do.
Yep, exactly. Not anything against us, not my concern. I answered his question and I sat back down.
Well, you did an excellent job.
Oh, thank you.
Excellent job. You were well prepared in such a short time frame,
Yeah.
and obviously didn't look nervous at all. You did
Yeah.
a great job. So thank you
All
very
right,
much.
no problem. Thank you. Have a great night.
All right, we'll hear from our administrative team, starting with Ben.
Come on down.
Come on down.
I know, we do. We should. Dun, 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 dun.
No rules against that. Good evening. Just a couple thank yous. Terry Caraway, for anyone who heard about the success of our Top 10 banquet, Terry and her food service staff did an amazing job of making that possible for everyone, from the ordering of everything that went into it. So I want to go ahead and publicly thank Terry, Lisa Cruikshank, and those people who helped with that. Congratulations to the GAC for another successful Top 20 event here. We had our 9 to 5 over at what is formerly Mon Ami, where we were able to honor 3 great students. Good reminder of why we do what we do. So success behind us, graduation and prom ahead of us, and we finished state testing today. A lot of credit to our school counselors, Courtney Cannon, and when you talk about irreplaceable, Sue Brown. Sue Brown is a gem in every sense of the way, and when it comes to testing time, there's nobody better. So, thank you. Any questions?
Just real quick, you'll be sending, our high school is sending 2 young men to Boy State this year, Gus Trainer and Casey Raytard.
Yes.
So I think that they represent our high school well, and couldn't be proud of what's going on right now.
Agreed. Anything else?
Yeah, I just have one addition, Ben.
Yep.
So, a part of our student achievement liaison team that I had my meeting the other night, tomorrow is the deadline for the OSBA Student Achievement Fair.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if maybe we could put that out to our teachers for, we've had like bands there, choirs, cheerleaders perform, and anything that can showcase our school district. They're really encouraging
Sure.
some of our districts to send somebody. So I thought maybe our floral design or anybody that you can think of, it just encourage them. It's gone so far in November, so
And I would even encourage the group that spoke last month.
yeah.
Yeah, we've got all kinds of great kids and
Yeah.
teachers.
So I just, some things that I was thinking and doodling as I
The
was going
deadline
through
is when?
Pardon me?
When's the deadline to
It's
apply?
actually tomorrow.
Okay, if you just
So
forward me,
I will forward you that information.
sure. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ben. Kevin? News from the middle school.
Okay, we're going to have our awards day next Thursday, so that'll be a nice thing for the students toward the end of the school year. Working on scheduling, getting things ready for next year. Trying to do some end of the year activities. Obviously, we can't do a lot of the normal stuff, but I know the 8th graders are doing they're reading The Outsiders, so they're doing a Grease and Soch Day on Friday, so that'll be neat for the 8th graders. I'll have a lot of fun with that. Been a long school year, and was considered a marathon, and I don't know if we're at Heartbreak Hill or approaching it or getting down the hill, but that's about where we are as far as the marathon goes. And lastly, just like to, I know she's here, so been a great member to our staff at the middle school, high school, and the elementary, Stacy Deppner, who's retiring, and just like a shout out to Stacy for all her work. She's just a great person and a great teacher, and I remember when we hired Stacy, I don't know what it was, about 18 years ago, it seems like 10, but just a dynamic person, and she'll be missed, and just want to say that to Stacy, because she's really special and has been great for our school and for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy.
One more year.
I know, right?
One more year. One.
All right, Yolanda, you're up. Cody, might as well come too.
All right, I just have a couple of things. We just completed our kindergarten screening this past week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Our numbers increased from the last time I did give Bill some numbers. We screened 88 students. One did not show, so we had 89 signed up. We currently have 5 retentions that we are going to do and 1 early entrance, so that puts us at about 95 students, with anticipating 10 to 15 over the summer with the movements and that we have in. So just an awareness, currently we're at about 23, 24 students per class in kindergarten. Quite a few for a kindergarten classroom with our building foundations there. Also, we are going to be doing our field day on May 28th, and with that being said, we are going to announce to parents that it will be spectators. We will have spectators here, not able to come into the building. However, they are able to come and enjoy the festivities with their students. We know this is a very competitive time, and they like seeing their students compete. So we will be releasing that tomorrow. Our plan was today, but we did not get to that today, to release that. And then Mr. McPherson has a couple more announcements.
All
quick ones. The first one is our students started Color War this week, which is a fun, festive end-of-year activity. Sometimes it's middle of the year, focused around reading literacy. That's put on by Lizzie Wilcox and all of our staff. She's our media center specialist. She does a fantastic job. And we also have, for those watching, anyone here, some openings at PTO. If you'd like to be a part of a great organization, we'd love to have you. So that was my 2 announcements.
And not so fast. What John's gonna say it. Thank you, Cody. They said thank you for being the fearless second leader at the elementary. Good luck.
Yeah, you'll be missed.
Very much
Opal and Hazel are not happy. But,
Well, I'm just gonna, I'll plug her again. It's been a great ride because I had someone that guided me very well there. So I don't say that to make her feel good about herself, but I truly do mean that.
Thanks, guys. Lauren, do you have anything? Any other staff present? All right, is there any input from the public? Any comments from the public that we would like to share? Seeing none, I will turn it over for the treasurer's report and Mr. Bill Nye.
Thank you. First item is the discussion of the actual compared to budget for the month of April. As part of the revenue section, everything for the month of April pretty much come close to budget. Year to date, we do continue to have multiple line items that are having good years. Real estate line, the other line, and also the foundation line. Real estate, we had an influx of delinquency money, one-time influx that's driving that line item. The other line, as we've spoken before, had the Bureau of Workers' Compensation refunds. And the foundation actually had a reduction in the reduction of foundation dollars. So in combination, all those basically make up a little over $400,000 better than budget at this point. Expenditure-wise, once
hey,
again...
Bill, can I clarify one thing? Because
Sure.
I don't want that to sound too good. So it's 400,000 better to budget, but we lost between 20 and 21, $370,000 in state funding.
That is correct.
Okay. So I just, it's better than what we had anticipated by 100,000 as far as what we were getting or losing. So that sounded, I didn't want it to sound rosy. 'Cause
Sure,
that's
sure.
better than what it
Yeah, when you
could have
talk
been,
that
but, yeah.
our whole budget was supposed to be 700 plus thousand as a deficit.
Right.
And then you'll hear me later talk about foundation funding. We are in fiscal year 21. Obviously, we're going to fiscal year 22. Part of the budget proposal this year is actually going back to fiscal year 19 levels, because fiscal year 20 and 21 were actually lower than fiscal year 19. So just try to absorb that, going back essentially 3-4 years to fiscal year 22. Yeah, that's unfortunate actually, but that's what's happening at this point. So yes, expenditure-wise, once again, things were pretty close to budget for most line items. Year to date, we still have purchase services, very robust. However, that was likely to come back close to budget. We have 2 or 3 items, including the Woodmore shared services costs that we'll be getting in. So that line item, although it shows about $140,000 favorable right now, that will come back closer to budget by the time the year's over. Once again, little over $330,000 better than budget at this point for expenditures. If you look at it as a whole, look at the trend, take a couple of items that we have not expended yet, that actually should be in here. We're still about 100 or so thousand deficit spending for the year. We have come pretty far in comparison to what I budgeted, and COVID had a little bit to do with that. So, but that's kind of where we're at right now after the month of April. A couple months to go in this fiscal year, and hopefully we'll end strong. Any questions, comments, concerns? All right. Okay, I have the lucky 7 tonight, 7 items for approval. The first item is the May 5-year forecast. Every May and November, school districts need to complete a 5-year forecast, submit to the state. Last night at our finance meeting, we took a few minutes to go over the 5-year forecast and the items that make it up. I'm not going to go through everything like we did last night, but I am going to bring up a few notable items. First and foremost is something that Jeff just brought up, is the foundation revenue. This is the district's largest funding source, and like I just said, fiscal year 20 and 21 were bad enough, whereas the budget proposal by the governor is looking to go back to fiscal year 19 levels for foundation funding. I wish he would go to fiscal year 22 levels and leave 19, 20, and 21 in the back mirror or rearview mirror, but unfortunately that's not going to look like it's going to occur. But so that's not a good or a bad. I kind of put it as a blue in my list here. It's better than what we thought, but bad enough to not give it a green. Casino revenue, we did have a benefit there. Everything looks like it's going back to historical levels after casino closures happen in most of fiscal year 20. Next item is investment earnings. Unfortunately, CD rates, bank account rates continue to decline to historical lows, and will basically likely remain there since the federal funding rate is basically at a low level too. One of the other positives we do have is positive open enrollment. Year over year, we continue to increase our open enrollment funding as open enrollment student count continues to increase year over year. And one of the main items what we've talked about as part of the levy is our purchase services for special ed costs. They have increased, like I said before, between fiscal year 15 and 20, we've had about an 86% increase in those line items alone for special ed. It didn't stop. COVID did not stop this. In fiscal year 21, we are going to have another increase. It won't be as significant as some other years, but still an increase nonetheless. So that special ed cost continues to increase.
Do we have any idea how much?
It is about, last time I looked, it was about $40,000 more than last year at this time. So we were at about little over 1.3 million. So we're probably looking at the middle 1.35 to 1.4 once it's all said and done for this year. And one other thing, expenditures as a whole, if anything came out of COVID, it did help us with our utilities and so forth. It did reduce some of our expenditures in that respect. Looking at the 5-year forecast, I provided you a copy of the 5-year forecast and also the assumptions that come along with it. Short term, we had some marginal improvements But long-term, we still have material concerns, still have deficit spending or negative cash balance in fiscal year '24. That's what we had back at the November forecast, so that has not changed. So we do need to continue to look at ways to improve our status. And in the most significant way is another, unfortunately, another levy on the ballot. But that's basically where we're at. If you look at the 5-year forecast, you do see down in end of fiscal year '24, still a red number, albeit smaller than it was. It is still a negative number, unfortunately. Any questions, comments, concerns with the 5-year forecast? Anything I brought up? Any items you'd like to have clarified in any manner?
Well, we've heard from the report from the state, which is the funding is basically flat, slight marginal increase there. You know, there's no avoiding the inevitability of having to go back to the voters. Deficit spending is real and looming on the horizon quite ominously. We're trying to be proactive and get in front of that and get the information to the community. But nonetheless, the inevitability of that is there. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, you know, we do show marked improvement for fiscal year '21, but at the end of the day, it's still deficit spending. And I don't really, fiscal year '21 was never my focus. My focus was the couple years after that have over $1 million deficit spending. And once you get the train rolling that fast, it's very, very hard to stop it without some significant, unfortunate items occurring.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was trying to get across, and that's what you were trying to avoid, basically. And we'll talk a little bit about that at the end of my my approvals, what we might have in store coming up for that.
Motion to approve?
Yep, motion, I need motion, correct.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Cashin. Mrs. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Traver.
Yes.
Mr. Trainer.
Yes.
And Mr. Reitnauer.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, the next item for approval is the annual Northern Ohio Educational Computer Association, i.e. NOECA, services fee schedule for fiscal year '22. We've adjusted a few things, and this is based off of enrollments. With the minor adjustment in enrollments, the contracted amount actually is about $50 less than last year. We use this as for our DAZZLE, for our student information. This is used for financial systems and so forth and so on. And basically the cost is remaining a little bit stagnant. Any questions on?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Mr. Cashin? Yes. Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes.
Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
And Mr. Reitnauer?
Yes.
All right, next item are the student fees. for the 21-22 school year. This includes electives, food service, music, pay to participate, and multiple miscellaneous fees such as student parking, class fees, band activity, tech insurance, and preschool. As you see there in red, those are the items that are changing from last year for next year from this year. World language is going up due to the fact every other year they go to a concert, which is an additional fee, so there's an additional fee there. The class fee for grade 12 is increasing due to the fact of additional diploma costs and diploma seals. And also the preschool tuition, the monthly preschool tuition is increasing. It has been the same since 2017-18. So we are making an adjustment to the cost of preschool tuition. Those are the changes going forward. Always, the costs are always subject to change. I have not really had that occur though. Usually when we set them and forget them, and they're usually the same. Nothing usually changes for at least this year. So, any questions?
Just a comment for the audience. You know, obviously the fees were a part of our campaign for the levy, and we continue to evaluate the results of the levy vote, and we heard from the community about this and other things, other aspects of it, and we continue to evaluate that, and we'll probably have some kind of a proposal going forward in subsequent meetings, maybe next month or so. Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Cashin?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes.
Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
And Mr. Reitnauer?
Yes.
All right, the next item is to consider the approval of a fee reduction for reduced lunch recipients. I think it was back in 2010, the state provided fees free for free lunch recipients, but there was nothing for reduced lunch recipients. Like I said, back in I think 2010, the board thought it would be beneficial to provide reduced lunch recipients a little bit of relief. So they noted to take the $100 base fee and reduce it by half to $50. Then any electives taken would also be reduced by 50%. We look at free and reduced lunch prices, or lunch, the applications to note which individuals qualify and so forth. But this is a local decision. Like I said, I brought it back every year since 2010, and we've implemented this for the next year. I ask that the board consider it to approve once again for the 2021-22 school year.
Second.
Mr. Cashin?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yep.
Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
And Mr. Reitnauer?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, as part of our permanent improvement 5-year forecast, we have actually been saving basically over the last 5 years to remodel the high school bathrooms that are by the high school offices. We finally went out to bid just over the last last week. And the posted estimate for the bid completed by our architect was $131,000. We were pleasantly surprised that we were able to receive 3 bids, and the low bid came back at $94,500, well below the posted estimate. Our architect, Vera Group, met with the prospective low bidder, made sure everything was in order, and did confirm everything. And the architect is recommending awarding the contract to Compt Construction. They have actually completed work at our district before. They were the ones that completed the high school science labs. And that was done, I want to say, back in 2012, 13 timeframe, somewhere around there. Any questions on this bid process, the bid itself?
Is the construction company, is it a local owned company?
I'm sorry?
Are they a local owned company?
I believe they're in Toledo, from Toledo.
Okay.
I think we looked, the second place was from Toledo, and obviously Mosier's from, I believe, Fremont. So they're all fairly local. Any other questions, concerns?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Cashin?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes.
Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
And Mr. Reitnauer?
Yes.
Okay, I have the annual property, fleet, and liability insurance program agreement for approval. This basically covers everything we have here at the district, all of our property, buses, vans, you name it, this is it. This is the first year we have a fairly significant increase, a little over 14% increase. We talked last night at finance. By probably the last, not quite the last decade, we've seen year-over-year reductions. But unfortunately, some things come to an end. It's probably not the best timing, but we do see somewhat of a significant increase for the 21-22 renewal. And it basically comes in 3 places. If you look at the detail: excess property, school board legal liability, which is not a surprise, and also probably not a surprise to Mr. Baker, cyber liability and identity theft. Those are the 3 that's basically driving the increase in cost this time around. Like I said, if you look back 2012, 2013, this is showing a $66,000 premium right now. We were at about $60,000 back then. So even over the last decade, it hasn't increased too terribly much. So, any questions on program, the costs, anything else?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Cashin?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes.
Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
And Mr. Reitnauer?
Yes. And Bill, one comment about that, just for the benefit of those listening, we are part of a consortium, a buying group.
That is correct.
For that, how many school districts are in that buying group for this insurance coverage?
It fluctuates between 50, 55, and 60. This is throughout Northwest Ohio, Mid-Ohio, And it's been a pretty good consortium to be with for the last decade.
Thank you.
And last item, but not least, by no means, is the proposal for another levy to be included on the November 2nd, 2021 ballots. This resolution is the first of two resolutions. It is for 5-year period, 5.25 mils, essentially, effectively reducing the amount of the fees and pay to participate from the previous levy. Basically, you have any other questions on this one? There's not much different than the previous couple, except for the millage has been reduced from the last one, and still for a 5-year period. Still the same case.
Yeah, with some of the feedback, clearly, we heard the community loudly with regard to fees and pay to participate. That reduction is a response, but nevertheless, to maintain without much additional positions or budget items, I kind of think this is the appropriate amount. My comment about that.
Okay. We don't have any other comments or concerns. Just need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Cashin. Mrs. Lewis.
Yeah.
Mr. Traver.
Yes.
Mr. Trainer.
Yes.
And Mr. Rightnow.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, you can open to page 9 on the agenda. This is the board to approve those resignations and retirement there as listed. Just a quick shout out to those teachers, 3 elementary teachers that are resigning. Just want to thank them for their service, their time. Our kids are better and better places because of their efforts and all they've done. And I just wish them the best as they go on to this next step of their life. So thank you very much for that. Jeff Cruz, retirement, he's still got a ways to go, but he's done a great job in all his time here as well. But we'll address him more as he gets closer to his actual retirement date.
To approve.
Second.
Mr. Cashin.
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Traver.
Yes.
Mr. Trainer.
Yes.
And Mr. Rightnow.
Yes.
On page 10, just need the board to approve the employment of the supportive personnel as listed there. On the bottom section there, from 2 through 7, those we are hosting district softball tournament here this week.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Cashin.
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Traver.
Yes.
Mr. Trainer.
Yes.
And Mr. Rightnow.
Yes.
On page 11, I need the board to approve the employment of the following certificate of personnel. I want to take a quick moment to introduce our new staff. We have 3 people there, 2, 3, and 4. Lindsay Borges, who could not be here, and Kayla Radloff, who also could not be here, unless I'm missing her somewhere. Where is she? Oh, hi, Kayla. Okay. And Christina Cernick, who is in the back, taking our music position over. I just want to welcome them, and you know, these 3 people stood out as the best candidates for the position, so we just want to continue the tradition of bringing the best people in here and serving our kids as the best that we can. So welcome, and look forward to seeing you here next year.
Okay, this is the point when you come up and sing the alma mater.
Right.
Yeah.
No? Not happening? You can lead, you're the music teacher, let's go.
So moved, Bill.
Second.
Mr. Cashin. Mrs. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Traver.
Yes.
Mr. Trainer.
Yes.
And Mr. Reitnauer.
Yes.
Page 12. Need the board to approve those professional meetings on that page.
Second.
Mr. Cashin.
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Traver.
Yes.
Mr. Trainer.
Yes.
And Mr. Reitnauer.
Yes.
Okay, page 14. Okay, and we need the board to approve there, number one, open enrollment for the 21-22 school year. And those are on, listed on a handout there. I believe it is in salmon.
Yellow?
No,
Salmon.
the salmon there.
What are we
Salmonella.
doing?
Sorry.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Cashin. Mrs. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Traver.
Yes.
Mr. Trainer.
Yes.
And Mr. Reitnauer.
Yes.
Need the board to approve number two, the sale of property to the Mitchell family. Mitchells have the house that is off of Genoa Place Center, has a lot of vehicles and things in the yard. They are purchasing 2/3 of an acre from us to build a big barn, sort of, big barn to hold all the stuff. So, any rates, we just need the board to approve that.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Cashin.
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Traver.
Yes.
Mr. Trainer.
Yes.
And Mr. Reitnauer.
Yes.
Board to approve number four in lieu of transportation there.
Oh, number three, graduation.
Sorry,
class.
3, graduation class.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Cashin. Mrs. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Traver.
Yes.
Mr. Trainer.
Yes.
And Mr. Reitnauer.
Yes.
Good for it
Okay.
right now, out or out?
Who?
I think you have to abstain.
You said same.
Oh, I do?
I don't think he needs to.
Yeah, before.
I mean, not on something like this,
No.
I don't think he had to.
Not for
Okay.
not for graduation, I think it's fine. Okay, number 4 there, and before we ask you to approve that, second one there is Trevor Waxman, and I was just out at Skilled Trades Academy here this afternoon for their graduation. A number of kids are out there. Trevor is our lone representative out there this year, but just an amazing program out there, and just most of those kids are coming out of there with jobs already. Trevor is still contemplating some things, but he has gotten a good, I think, some good direction there as far as his future goes, at least for the time being. But that program is going to continue to grow. We are looking at the possibility collectively of offering an SDNA program out there next year that we can filter our kids through. And I guess for people that don't know, the Skilled Trade Academy is something that the brainchild of the Business Advisory Council and the superintendents that belong to that, and the businesses that belong to that as well. Just trying to help them meet their needs and trying to identify those kids, particularly seniors, who they get to their senior year and for whatever reason didn't want to go to Penta for that. They want to stay here with their friends because they're involved in sports or something along those lines. For people that maybe are just not interested in college or at this point in their life, or maybe can't afford it right now. it really targets those seniors in that position. And so we had a couple students out there, actually started with 3, I think, last year out there, and then we've got 1 this year. That program's going to continue to grow, and it's continue to be a benefit for our kids that, fall into that category and have those needs. And I think the great thing about this program is a lot of hands-on opportunities for kids. And it's really, there are opportunities out there have grown from last year to this year. The businesses have gotten more involved. They're bringing out more demo equipment for the kids to practice on and learn on and get a feel for, what they might like to do, what they enjoy doing. And, it's a great program out there, and it was a great graduation out there today. Kids, a lot of happy parents and a lot of kids that are just excited about what's coming next because they got a better idea what's coming next, and it's not as scary for them graduating from high school. So just a shout out to that program as a whole, and obviously Trevor Wasserman for putting the time and effort in to get through that program. Just need to put, yes, I'm sorry.
So, motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Cashin? Yes. Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes.
Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
And Mr. Reitnauer?
Yes.
Number 5, the middle school handbook. Board to approve. Back.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Cashin? Yes. Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes.
Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
And Mr. Reitnauer?
Yes.
Number 6 there, need the board to approve OHSAA board resolution. It's included in your books there, authorizing 21-22 membership in the OHSAA. It's annual, something we have to do annually.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Cashin? Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes.
Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
And Mr. Reitnauer?
Yes.
Need the board to approve number 7 there.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Cashin? Yes. Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
No.
Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
Mr. Reitnauer?
No.
Number 8, the board to approve GAE 1-year contract.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Cashin? Yes. Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes.
Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
And Mr. Reitnauer?
Yes.
And number 9 there, just some discussion, some items for discussion there. Mr. Edwards, would you like to talk about your proposal for a band trip?
Good evening, folks. We've been taking a large trip with the music department every 4 years since 1986. Usually it's gone down to Disney. The last 12 years we've had the choir go down with us. It's quite a ordeal to go ahead and get that all planned, especially this year because of the pandemic and everyone's sort of itching to get out of anywhere. So it's a year process. In starting this whole process and presenting it to you, I contacted our tour agent who contacted Disney once they started accepting applications. From that information, I contacted our parents of our music department, both the current and also the 8th grade. With the information that I received from them, we had 105 students and parents that were saying, yes, we want our children to go ahead and do that. It's something that we sort of need to get started with. Disney itself is not taking any groups to perform right now. They're not going to start actually performing till October, but they are limiting the number of applicants. We did send an application to Disney by the registered timeline, so we can participate if you give us the permission to do so. There's still a lot of unknowns. I know that the packet that I gave Mr. Ferguson and Mr. Olmaker, address several of those. The parents know that there's still a lot of unknowns, and then once we get more answers, we'll definitely share that with everyone involved. But we're just asking for your approval to go on with the procedure. Any questions?
Have fun.
Motion.
Okay.
Need a motion?
Should this
There's no
read,
motion.
just for future reference, should this read band and choir, since it just says band on there? so
Yeah,
it's choir?
this is Bannon Choir. There's approximately, like I said, 105 students total, 65 students from the band, 55 from the choir, and several students that were in both, so. And approximately 24 parents that said that they would go through that hell to chaperone. So,
Chaperone.
I'll second Jeff.
Are you requesting this to be approved? Because it just says discussion.
Yeah,
Discussion.
yeah.
I just want to
it needs
make
be-
sure that what we're doing,
Needs to be approved.
so the motion was from Chrissy,
No,
Jeff.
Jeff. and then I second
Jeff and
it.
Chrissy? Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure for future reference, we notated that it was choir as well going, that we're approving.
Mr. Cashin? Yes. Mrs. Lewis?
Yes,
Mr. Traver?
Yes.
Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
And Mr. Reitnauer?
Yes.
Numbers, the three next ones there are summer trips, just more for your awareness than anything else. They're summer trips, so they don't necessarily need your approval, so to speak. So it's because technically those are voluntary trips and outside the school year. So just kind of your awareness there, what's going on. If you have any questions, I don't know that necessarily answer. The wrestling team at Disney Duels is something they have done traditionally.
For years.
Yes, yes.
Will we have met prior to the boys' basketball camp, and since that seems to be the closest one,
Will we have what? I'm sorry.
meeting, the next meeting? Maybe we can,
Oh, prior to?
yeah, I was just thinking maybe we could get a report from Matt on the
Oh,
what the protocols are gonna be and see where we are at that point, since they're all athletics related.
yeah, I'm just looking at our next
22nd.
22nd.
Yeah, it'll
So,
be
yeah.
after that.
Yeah, I'll make sure that,
Yeah.
that he is here to talk to you about that if you have any questions.
It would be after the
Yeah,
camp
it's
then.
after the camp.
Wait a minute.
So we could just have to get some preliminary, I'm sure he's gonna do all his due diligence on that, but,
I know they're staying in the dorms.
yeah, it's after June 2nd, so we just wanna make sure, I guess, what's going on between the 2nd and those 2 weeks, if anything changes.
Okay. I can just have him send out that information to you
Yeah.
quickly.
For sure.
And I believe,
You need a motion for those?
no,
No.
because they don't have to be, they don't
Okay.
have to be approved. It's just for your information. Make sure I'm not leaving anything out here. We're good, though. Okay,
You good?
all right, good.
All right,
We do need to go,
anybody?
we do need to go in executive, discuss personnel.
We do?
Yes.
Do you have any online questions, Tom?
All right, we will be going into executive session for the purposes of discussing personnel, job-related personnel questions as it relates to a public employee. So with that,
No
No
action there?
No action.
yeah, no actions.
No. Motion?
Motion.
Mr. Cashin? Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes.
Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
And Mr. Wright.
Yes.